Welcome to the Taproxy Method, creating confident learners. The Taproxy Method uses a unique combination of breath work, brain-body work, gratitude, and a clay-based program to affect the neuroplasticity of the brain in students, to help strengthen their mind-body connection, help them develop a growth mindset, and most importantly, trust and confidence in themselves. Aloha and welcome to another episode of the Taproxy Method, Creating Confident Learners. I'm Tawny Taproxy, the founder and creator. I'm so happy that you're here and I'm so excited to be talking about math and number sense. I actually love teaching math, especially algebra and so forth. I tend to teach a lot of the other foundational stuff in reading and so forth. Just a little quick fun fact, I was actually 2 years ahead in math, was going to college as a senior because we didn't have our math course that I needed or the next calculus course as a high schooler. Before we get started, I wanted to share that I have a free assessment video that I'd love to share with you, where I walk you through a simple process in reading to figure out what type of learner your child is. I use this with every student when I first meet them to give me a sense of whether they are more of a visual or phonetic learner. To receive this free gift, sign up for my newsletter at pages.tawnytutors.com/newsletter. As soon as you sign up, you'll receive it in your inbox. So let's get started. And last week I was talking about reading and what it meant to be a phonetic versus a visual learner. I want to talk about the core subject of math, especially just math number sense. As I mentioned before, if we get the reading, the writing, spelling, and math in order, everything else will be taken care of, right? Those are the academic foundation. And we use the gratitude and breath work and balance and brain work to help those foundational academic skills by creating a deeper foundation in the body and helping the brain learn as smoothly as possible. So when we talk about math, what is number sense? So number sense is the ability to be flexible with numbers, but also to understand the place values, how to break them apart, put them back together, what the difference is between, like, say, the place value of 100 versus a ones place or a tenths place or a thousandths place. And also being fluent with the four major operations. And I always ask kids, I'm like, well, what does that word operation mean outside of school? When you go to the hospital, something gets done, they do something, right? So when we talk about the four major operations of math, we're talking about the things that you do with numbers, right? Adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. Those are the foundational operations. And not just having them in rote memory, but actually understanding them, right? Having a strong mental math ability, understanding benchmark numbers, understanding how to pull numbers apart and put them back together, how to critically think about a problem and what is being asked, understanding place value, and having the facts at their fingertips, right? Not having to count all the time, not having to draw when you're talking about multiplication or count on fingers or use a number line, but actually having automatic math in the body, in the brain, knowing it. And I love to teach them in a variety of ways until they know it, right? We're going to count, we're going to play, we're going to use number lines, we're going to use manipulatives. And games are definitely my favorite way to develop number sense across the four operations in a non-rote way. I was thinking more about it. You hear a lot of people as adults complain about not understanding fractions. But from my standpoint now, I honestly think that when they were learning that new concept, right, they didn't have a solid foundation in their math facts, especially their multiplication and division and the factors and so forth, to grasp the new concept of fractions, right? So when we learn adding and then subtracting, those correlate their inverse operations. But then we start to learn other things about numbers, like how to divide them into groups or cutting up things into parts. And then, so if we don't have a solid foundation in those operations, these other concepts that are built on them are quite difficult to understand. I've actually had a high school teacher sort me out and talk to me and be like, please make them understand their multiplication facts. He's like, I have so many students who just don't know this and they've gotten all the way to the high school, which is unreal in my brain. But Timed multiplication and time division is actually the only thing that I actually quiz students on. I will give them a 1 minute quiz on their 0 to 12 facts all mixed up. And I do expect them to know it by the end of fourth grade. I have fifth grade, sixth grade, and so forth, still working on that. But really, if you don't have those concepts, what is 5 plus 7? 12, like at your fingertips. What is 7 times 7? 49. If those facts, those basic facts that number sense is not in the body, if they're not confident with that, they have to break it down over and over and over again. Other concepts, whether it's fractions or long division or multiple digit multiplication or anything else that builds on that, is going to be difficult because the foundation is not there. Right? So I had a student recently who went from crying and going to the bathroom every time math came up in the classroom, super unsure of herself, hated math, to going pretty much a year later talking about, I'm good at math. I like math. Her entire ability and confidence had changed, and her internal story had changed. But this was because the mastery was there. There was enough ease, there was enough discussion, there was enough practice to and accountability too. A lot of times kids will slide through the classroom, whether they're taking their breaks, they're not really trying, they are shutting themselves down, but they're not finishing the task at hand. And so then the accountability is not there, the ease is not there, the practice is not there. I do talk a lot because we're talking about the brain synaptic connections. Sometimes when you're learning something new, let's say addition, something very simple. Sometimes you have to put pen to paper, pencil to paper, and just do it over and over again through the body, and then the mind will catch up. I personally remember a college math course, and I was a whiz at math. I loved math. It was super interesting, but I took a theorems class, I believe, or a theories class of how you prove stuff. And for the whole quarter at UC San Diego, I'm sitting there at office hours, not understanding, just keep on, chugging through it. My brain just would not catch up. And then luckily the week of finals, something just clicked and I was like, oh, okay, I've got it. But I had to just keep on showing up, doing the math problems, having someone help me until I understood what was going on. And then eventually the brain caught up and I had those, connections with ease and understood the concept. But to go back to this child, she was doing everything to get out of it until she was held accountable, one-on-one attention, one-on-one, math facts and games and so forth to get that understanding and ease. She didn't have any of the basic skills and understanding. It just wasn't there. And because she was also paralyzed by perfection, right? I have to get this right. And there was no room to make errors or get things wrong. She wasn't learning anything, right? We go to school to learn. We go to school to make mistakes. If a child makes a mistake, it's not like, oh, no, you don't get it. It's like, oh, this is just not what you understand yet. And a mistake in math or school just shows what we have to revisit, what a child doesn't know, right? It's just information. But a lot of times these kids who are perfectionists or have a really high people-pleasing tendency or want to get it right, we have to have those conversations of like, we go to school to learn something new. You're not expected to know this yet, but through practice, it will come, right? It's interesting because I do think there are two categories of students. Some of my students who really struggle with reading, writing, spelling have a sophisticated ability to think about numbers. They have a complex system of their own to break apart numbers. They tend to have a very great problem solving, algebraic thinking within them that they're not aware of, because oftentimes in the lower grades, right, elementary, even lower middle school, more of the rote tasks in math are being tested versus these deeper understanding and thinking and so forth. So unfortunately, since the early years are focused on rote skills, they tend to not know how smart they are in this area because they're not being asked this yet. And then to be compound that with having trouble with reading, they don't understand that their brain actually has some gifts that other people don't understand. So it's also the same with reading, where a child struggles with fluency, but their higher order thinking is deep and complex. They have a story about them not being very smart, even though they're doing very, very sophisticated things. Especially this idea of reading is thinking. It's not just the fluency of words, but again, in lower years, we tend to focus on that. and they don't always get that understanding that they have the reading skills on the thinking level. It's the fluency that's blocking them. We give them the other tools. Actually, a lot of parents will come to me with the Bob books, which I actually don't like very much because they don't make any sense. There's no teaching anything deeper than just phonetics, and that is not all of what reading is. We read fluently so we can understand, but we also read to get information, to think about what we're reading. I have another second grader. His concepts of multiplication is so easy for him. This is a third, fourth grade level concept. I have sixth graders who are struggling at a greater rate than him. But he has his own sophisticated system of pulling apart numbers and figuring out that they can be brought up not just one by one by one by one, counting right by ones, but by groups of 3, groups of 7, groups of 5. This is an easy concept for him. The other thing that is often overlooked with number sense and math is the vocabulary of math, or the language of the discipline. You can't even start to have a conversation with a child if they don't know the words. They don't know what a factor is. They don't know what a product is, a numerator, a denominator, right? So half of the battle too is understanding that there's a whole new language to talk about math. And then once we can talk about math, then we can talk about all the skills and so forth. So since COVID, I've been noticing this again at a higher frequency. My kids who struggle with math, they're transposing the numbers when they carry, right? So if we're carrying 17, they'll carry the 7 instead of the 1. And that, again, that lack of understanding of place value, of how to break up what it means to carry something over. So a lot of times we need to, and they're doing that both with addition or 2 or more digit multiplication, and needing to show them the place value blocks to get that concept of like, oh, we're making a group of 10, and 10 tens make a group of 100, 10 hundreds make a group of 1,000, and so forth, so they can see that. But I'm seeing this a lot, anywhere from first grade all the way up to fifth grade, of this like weird transposing of numbers. And again, I think when things have slipped in the younger years, when kids weren't in the classroom during COVID, or they were in group Zooms versus one-on-one, a lot of these little mistakes were being lost. They're just being carried over year by year by year until they get sorted or brought to their attention. Again, I always come back to consistency and small bite-sized amounts of information to learn, especially when we're talking about foundational number sense. I like to teach number sense through mini lessons and through gaps of knowledge that I see, and through games. I also use a lot of manipulatives like the place value blocks until they get the concept of the algorithm or the rules. So my favorite tools in the classroom are just typical cards, like a deck of cards, dice, a whiteboard, and realistic money. You can make so many games across those boards or across those manipulatives that are not rote, right? So that are just not pen to paper, or just not in order, but all mixed up too. I find that games help with math facts in a way that's not rote. The caveat is kids do need to memorize their multiplication facts. There's no shortcut to this. These games can help reinforce it, but it just takes review and review and review until they might need flashcards, good old flashcards, 99 charts, skip counting until they know it, pictures, drawing groups, but they have to make that connection. They have to have multiplication facts at their fingertips, because that will help everything else, like the fractions that I talked about. Division is just backwards multiplication. If they don't know their multiplication facts, they're going to struggle with division, and they're going to struggle with everything that comes on. So it needs to be automatic, and they need to put in whatever effort to become a master at that skill. No one can do the brain work for them. I say that a lot, but this is one part in math that they are always going to struggle until it's there at their fingertips. So I wanted to teach you just one of the games that I do with kids. And then you're just going to use a simple or a regular deck of cards, but you're going to move all the face cards and all the aces. So you're going to have 2s through 9s. And when you do math games, you got to make it a math game, right? It's a game. We're playing it, a little bit of healthy competition, make it fun, and so forth. So you just deal out the deck half and half. And you're going to flip over 2 cards, right? And you can do this for adding, subtracting, multiplying. And we'll just play one round of this. So You have 5 plus 8, which is 13. I have 6 plus 6 is 12. You won, right? So the only difference is if you have the same cards, then you put 3 cards face down and play war. So it's just another way to teach kids to get their math facts in a way that's not rote. It's a little bit of a game, a competition, and so forth. Some kids like to expand that to 3 cards that they're adding when they get really confident. If you're just a younger kid who's just adding and subtracting, but you can use this for subtraction skills, multiplication skills. I still haven't quite figured out how to use this with division, but I am convinced if you know division or if you know multiplication, division is easy because division is backward multiplication. And just that association in the fact family, they're able to reinforce that skill. So having fun with a little bit of war, try that at home, see how that helps, and definitely get your kids to know all their math facts, their multiplication facts at their fingertips. Thanks so much for listening. Before I go, I wanted to share that I have a free assessment video that I'd love to share with you where I walk you through a simple process in reading to figure out what type of learner your child is. I use this with every student when I first meet them to give me a sense of whether they're more of a visual or phonetic learner. This is so important to know because it will help you use the right tools to avoid bigger issues. To receive this free gift, sign up for my newsletter at pages.tawnitutors.com/newsletter. As soon as you sign up, you'll receive it in your inbox. If you're interested, follow me on Instagram and Facebook at The Taproxy Method. I also take on a very few select private one-on-one clients worldwide for homeschool support and tutoring work. Email me at tawny.taproxy@tawnitutors.com. Have a blessed day and aloha.